A top-tier spy receives a classified assignment to protect a high-value target. Yet he never imagined the person the agency ordered him to guard was the traitor who once leaked intelligence and got his best comrade killed. After being escorted back to North Korea, Minister Kim endured inhumane torment at the hands of interrogators. To force him to confess classified information linked to South Korea, his torturers shocked him with electric current and pressed red-hot branding irons against his skin, subjecting him to nearly every form of torture imaginable. No matter how fiercely they pressed him for answers, Minister Kim refused to utter a single word. Enraged by his unbroken silence, the interrogator grabbed him by the hair and snarled a harsh warning. This was the final chance the agency had given him to redeem his motherland and erase the traitor label from his name. Seeing Minister Kim still show no sign of yielding, the man stripped off his jacket, picked up the electric torture device once more, and boasted arrogantly that he would make Minister Kim's daughter suffer the same agony sooner or later. The word daughter instantly struck Minister Kim's raw nerve. As the interrogator lunged to attack, the seemingly helpless Minister Kim suddenly erupted with brute force, sinking his teeth deep into the man's neck and clamping down until his torturer convulsed all over and blacked out completely. Minister Kim strained every muscle to break free from his shackles. But when he burst out of the cell, he found General and Director Kyung standing right outside. He had never actually been sent back to North Korea. Everything he had just endured was a staged ordeal arranged by the general to test his loyalty to South Korea. Witnessing that Minister Kim had refused to leak any intelligence even after nearly being tortured to death, the general declared he had passed the trial and handed him an even deadlier mission. If he pulled off the operation successfully, Minister Kim would regain his full freedom and be issued a brand new identity, allowing him to stay openly by Minji's side for good. For his daughter's sake, Minister Kim asked for full details of the task. Director Kyung told him a senior North Korean official had defected from his agency and filed an application for political asylum in South Korea. The timing could not be worse, as high-level inter-Korean talks were underway. If North Korea discovered South Korea was secretly sheltering the defector, bilateral relations would likely collapse entirely. For this reason, the Intelligence Bureau assigned Minister Kim to guard the traitor until the conclusion of the talks and the departure of the North Korean delegation. To ease Minister Kim's worries, Director Kyung pledged the Bureau would provide round-the-clock protection for Minji. Though he held deep reservations about spies like Minister Kim, the director swore he would lay down his life to safeguard every South Korean citizen. Minister Kim agreed to take the mission on one condition: release Han-soo and Jin-cheol immediately. Elsewhere, Han-soo and Jin-cheol, detained in an isolation chamber, suddenly received orders for a transfer. Intelligence officers fired tranquilizer darts through the observation window, intending to sedate and remove the two men. The two veterans refused to go quietly, darting and scrambling all over the cramped room to dodge the shots. Yet they were eventually brought down by the hail of tranquilizer darts. When Han-soo regained consciousness, he found himself and Jin-cheol bound with iron chains and dumped in a desolate wilderness. Spotting a set of keys deliberately left nearby, Han-soo instantly realized Director Kyung was exacting revenge on them. He dragged himself laboriously over to unlock his restraints, then headed to a nearby convenience store to ask where they had been taken. Meanwhile, the venue for the Inter-Korean summit was a hotel owned by Chairman Ju. Both the Vice Minister and Chairman Ju had been publicly humiliated by Minister Kim and harbored seething hatred toward him. The Vice Minister revealed to Chairman Ju that Minister Kim was an elite former North Korean spy, and disclosed he was currently tasked with guarding the defecting senior official. Chairman Ju immediately recognized this as his long-awaited chance to get revenge on Minister Kim. By this point, Minister Kim had picked up the defector official as planned, but the second he laid eyes on the man's face, he froze on the spot. The Director Lee standing before him was not only the superior who personally trained Minister Kim and his fellow agents years ago, but also the real traitor who leaked operational intelligence to South Korea in a power grab for the director's post, costing countless agents their lives and leading to the brutal death of the genuine Agent 66. North Korean senior officials had long since uncovered the truth behind the catastrophic operation 20 years prior. The mission had failed because an insider leaked classified information to South Korean authorities in advance, and that insider was none other than Director Lee. Senior cadres dispatched personnel to take him away for formal interrogation. Director Lee refused to confess to any crimes and struck first before fleeing to South Korea to seek asylum. Noticing Minister Kim remained frozen in shock, Director Lee instantly figured out what was going through his mind. He reminded Minister Kim that he was now a key figure voluntarily taken in by the South Korean government, for he held all classified intelligence on North Korea's missile programs. Minister Kim had no choice but to suppress his seething hatred and escort Director Lee to the designated safe house. While taking a shower, a hideous gash on Director Lee's waist was exposed. Before defecting to South Korea, he had sliced open his own waist and inserted a memory chip containing all missile intelligence inside his body to prevent anyone from easily retrieving it. Knowing full well Minister Kim wanted him dead, Director Lee kept provoking him non-stop, bragging that he was a voluntary North Korean defector welcomed by South Korea, while Minister Kim was nothing but a traitor who groveled for mercy after being captured. Minister Kim ignored his taunts and fixed his gaze on the television to follow the progress of the inter-Korean talks. At that moment, both delegations had arrived at Chairman Ju's hotel. The North Korean representative had barely sat down when he received word that Director Lee had entered South Korea and was likely under South Korean custody. He immediately stood up and headed back to his room to draw up an arrest plan. Chairman Ju suddenly blocked his path and bluntly asked if he was searching for Director Lee. He also revealed that Agent 66 was the man assigned to guard the defector. The North Korean representative promptly invited Chairman Ju into the room for a private discussion, and Chairman Ju handed over 3 gold bars in exchange for one single demand. Elsewhere, Minister Kim was guarding Director Lee when Sang-ah and the laundromat owner spotted several unmarked vehicles breaking into the secured perimeter and sprang into action at once. Hordes of masked men burst into the safe house, only to find it empty. Spotting recently used items inside, they realized their target had fled early and rushed out with their men to give chase. A short distance away, Minister Kim appeared to be escorting Director Lee into a vehicle. The masked pursuers closed in rapidly, unaware they had walked straight into a trap. The real Director Lee had been hiding inside a cabinet in the room the entire time. The figure escorted away by Minister Kim was merely Sang-ah disguised as Director Lee. After successfully shaking off the pursuers, Sang-ah and the laundromat owner contacted Minister Kim immediately, planning to report to the Intelligence Bureau and request a new safe house. Minister Kim stopped them, explaining that the enemy had tracked them down so quickly only meant there was a mole within the agency. From that point on, no one could be told of his whereabouts. When the laundromat owner asked what Minister Kim had said, Sang-ah grew equally suspicious of everyone around him and replied that it was nothing important. Following the failed manhunt, the masked men reported back to the North Korean representative. They explained they could not continue the pursuit once the target slipped into a residential neighborhood and had no option but to pull back temporarily. Enraged, the North Korean representative ordered his men to locate Director Lee without delay. Chairman Ju, however, argued that even if they found him, they could not openly attack in front of ordinary civilians. At Chairman Ju's instigation, the head of the South Korean delegation quickly contacted the general, and Director Kyung also received orders to track down Minister Kim's location. By then, Minister Kim had brought Director Lee to Hanse's Taekwondo gym. Upon seeing Hanse and Jincheol, Director Lee finally relaxed. In his eyes, the combined strength of Minister Kim, Hanse and Jincheol was enough to wipe out an entire North Korean military unit. Jincheol told Minister Kim that the general had called him and Hanse to request their assistance with the mission, but Hanse had flatly turned the offer down. Minister Kim agreed it was the right decision. He planned to move Director Lee after dark and refused to drag the 2 men further into trouble. As the group prepared to order food, Director Kyung burst into the Taekwondo gym with a large squad of operatives and surrounded everyone. He publicly announced his intention to extradite Director Lee back to North Korea. Minister Kim demanded to know exactly what he was trying to do. Director Kyung claimed he was only following orders to apprehend communist fugitives, stating he had opposed sheltering Director Lee from the very start and disagreed with how the bureau had handled Minister Kim's case. He then pulled out a photo showing Minji being held inside the Intelligence Bureau and warned Minister Kim not to forget who held his daughter captive. The operatives stepped forward and disarmed Minister Kim. Staring at the fully restrained Minister Kim, Director Kyung coldly declared the mission a failure.